Let me ask you something. Do you remember the first episode of the original Fully Cooley, the first episode of Fully Cooley Progressive, or the first episode of Fully Cooley Alternative? Congratulations! You've seen the good parts of Fully Cooley Grunge Part 1, and ultimately, I'm going to just do what I normally do. Things I liked, things I didn't like, tie up with a big old bow at the end. So what did I like? A lot of people there was talking about the animation, like the trailers, the animation looked bad, looked terrible. Well, the animation was okay. And I mean it's okay when people aren't moving. And here's the problem. Fooly Cooley has two distinct elements. Lots of action scenes and very physical humor. And well, Fooly Cooley doesn't do well when you have to animate it in this style. I have to say that right now. It's like, at first you would have these moments where it's slow, people are barely moving, they're talking, and you're like, you know what, this animation fits. It feels like they're really desperately trying to make CG look like 2D animation. And I'll give them credit, when things aren't moving, it does. It really does look like that. And problem is, like, for example, you have a lot of physical gags. Like, early on when the mayor's, like, doing this whole thing to Sushi where he's moving his body around really fast, it looks like, and here's what it looks like, and I think we're going to notice this further we go along when it gets more action heavy. It sounds like the audio is fine pacing, but the animation feels like it's dropping frames per second when things are moving. It's actually doing this worse, in my opinion, than it's doing this worse than what was it called? Blade Runner Black Lotus. Blade Runner Black Lotus kept having this issue where the animation kind of gets wonky when things are moving, when there's an action scene. And Fooly Cooley Grunge definitely looks like that. And it really feels like you're losing like you're seeing the audio and physical tape move out of sync in live time, which is weird. And then it like snaps back in when things slow down again. And again, when you have, like, for example, the action scene at the end, you can kind of barely tell what's going on, not because of what's going on. The color scheme is fine. You can physically determine what is what. But at the same time, it's just the frames per second are so bad. Like, for example, when Haruko is beating up all the people in the bar or the sushi restaurant, you see she gets sets to kick. She's mid kick, then she kicks, and then goes back. And it's just three distinct frames. There's no fluidity to the animation. And that really feels jarring considering the fluidity animation was great in the original and was definitely decent in the two sequels, and it's completely gone now. You know what? I'm going 3 minutes just talking about the animation. I'm going to cover some of the other aspects. And I start with that little bit of an anecdote about, you've already seen this episode before, because plot wise, there's nothing special about this show. Is it a bad plot? No. It's a fine plot. And it is right in front of your face the whole time. There's no subtlety to it. Like, the whole theming is, adults have given up, this place sucks. Isn't it bad the adults have given up? Everyone's given up on the future. Man, doesn't it suck? The environment's terrible. Look at this fish. Oh my god, if I have to see... sad thing is, you're going to see that fish the next 5 episodes. There's, like, of all the gags in this, I'll say 30% of the gags was just, look at this weird fish. Look at what this fish is doing right now. He can stop enemies by throwing the fish. Who eats this fish? I don't want to hear about the fish ever again, and I hate the fact that, yeah, I will be hearing about the fish in the next 5 episodes. Outside of that, the characters. The main character, I think, Shin-chan. I'm going to call him Shin-chan because Haruko calls him that a bunch, and it makes me think of Very Happy Days on Adult Swim action. So, Shin-chan is Naoda. Maybe a little edgier Naoda. Like, Naoda that actually does kind of speak his mind. But, like I said, and it feels like these characters, now, it feels like you're starting with Naoda in episode, like, 5 already, in the first episode. And the thing is, I don't think we're going to ultimately see much of an actual character arc with this character. It's just more like, oh, he's edgy badass, and he's totally in love with Haruko, but he feels hope, and he's going to confuse hope with love, and which is exactly what Naoda that's kind of what his plotline was in the original Fooly Cooley. And you have the Thing. I don't remember his name. I'm going to call him the Thing. The Thing's older brother is totally hopped up on alcohol. He can't do anything anymore. But the Thing totally can use a sword, and like he helps out everyone in the end. And he's going to be like the best friend. And you see that girl, Orinoco. I only remember her name because every time I'm going to hear her name, I'm going to think of that one Enya song. Again, another thing that's better than this anime. And, I mean, she doesn't do much. Her run cycle's janky. That's because the animation. And another thing about kind of ties in the animation, I said the sound was fine in pacing. The sound mixing is atrocious. And that's a problem when half of the anime is just playing the pillow songs in the background. And one thing that really brought my attention to this is the scene the first time Haruko and the mayor are in the sushi bar. You have the main character Shin-chan walking back and forth, and his footsteps rather are extremely loud. They are very loud. You can barely hear what Haruko and the guy are saying. And the action scene too, you hear like the action sounds, you barely hear what anyone's saying. And another thing that's going to get brought up because it's inevitable, you have one joke towards the end where they're making the whole joke about like how the dub changes stuff from the sub. And it feels like they're trying to be self-aware and meta, but it just comes off stupid. And the irony is like, oh, you're cringe posting. He literally says that the mayor's cringe posting, which yeah. And I know I'm dissing this right now, but the the actual voice acting performances are fine. Again, Haruko Kari Walgren does an absolutely amazing job as she always does as Haruko. Outside of that, it really feels like the main character is just trying to be Naoto. It's voiced the exact same, different person though. Obviously, I like that the voice acting cast. You have, of course, Kari Walgren, of course, having to reprise Haruko. And outside of that, it's just a bunch of absolute no names, or they did a couple roles here and there. It feels like they're trying to do the whole, oh, we'll make this their first big star role, but they're okay. So far, none of the other voice acting performances have stood out to me in any way. It's just there. And really, at the end of the day, this is something I'm going to compare more to Fully Coolly Progressive, in which they do try to force in these Fully Coolly tropes of, man, these adults suck. And you have the whole scene at the end where Amuro's holding his eyebrows down, or I guess Amuro's, whoever this person's supposed to be, probably Amuro, like from the original. He's holding his eyebrows because remember, Amuro has those big eyebrows. Remember, that's his whole thing. And you have the mayor being like, oh, he's like the creepy male who's cringe posting to Haruka. I can't believe they made that joke. And then like the whole action scene just looked terrible with the animation. It's a good concept for an action scene. You just can't execute it with this animation. And that's something that Fully Coolly Grunge is going to be stuck with the next 5 episodes. Ultimately, if I had to rate this episode, I would give it like a 4.5 out of 10. Is it atrocious? No. But the good things, the other Fully Coolies probably did a better job of. And the things that are bad are probably indicative of other bad things that are going to come the rest of this series run. So I'm going to keep my hopes up, but not too far up because, again, I see trouble afoot here for this anime. What do you guys think? Leave your comments and your opinions down below. I'm Super Orange Cat, and that is all.